Marty, when you're 35-0-1 with the lead going into the third period, I don't know if it makes you bulletproof, but how much does that help in terms of not playing jumpy, not playing nervous, and staying with what's been tried and true for you?
Yeah, honestly, it's the first I've known of that stat. So we don't talk about it, but we do talk about the structure of our game and how we need to play. And certainly over the last week, making sure that we continue to skate and move pucks forward. So I think the group's done a good job of that throughout the season. But yeah, that's the first I've heard of that record.
Okay, so I'm going to throw another stat at you then. 28, 3 and 3 scoring the first goal of the game this season, and about 500 when you don't, maybe a little bit above that. Have you noticed anything different at all in the style of play when you're able to get that early lead as opposed to maybe having to fight back to regain it?
No, I wouldn't say we have. And the beauty of being behind the bench with this group this year is that you can't really tell what the score of the game is based on how they react. And that's something that I think over time that they've gotten as a group really good at in terms of leading on their own and saying the right things on the bench because there's a sense of calm. And obviously that comes from Arnie as well. But, you know, we obviously want to get the first goal of the game, but I haven't found that it's been too big of a stressor if the other team scores first. It's more about the guys making sure that they do all the right things and they say the right things, and it's been very consistent throughout the season.
Cole Perfetti looks like he's playing with confidence night in and night out, and he's trying things and all that sort of stuff. What are you seeing from him as he's sort of maybe realizing that he can assert that side of himself on the NHL?
Yeah, well, I think that he was in a position maybe a week ago where he was getting a lot of chances, and it was just one of those things where the puck was bouncing over his stick, and he wasn't producing, but he was getting the chances. And I think it's going through those times in a season and times in your career where you have to continue to believe in yourself. And I think that he got a good bounce, obviously, to get that goal on the road, and then obviously you saw the plays he made last night. So he's always believed in himself, and I think as he's grown in his career, he's gotten stronger physically. I think we saw that last night. There was a rush that he had, but it really started on the back check. If you saw it, he really gained ground, came back, helped us defend, and then ended up getting a scoring chance out of it. And I think that that's a good indication of Cole Perfetti now. He can contribute on both ends of the rink, and he's done a good job with that. And point production is something that's going to come and go with all the players. There's going to be times when you don't get the bounces, but you have to continue to play your game. And I think that he really buys into that.
There was some talk when he's winning a few more battles or more battles than in the past, and a lot of that is from his quickness in those small area spaces. Is he quicker in open ice at this point? Do you have any way of assessing that he's gotten faster as a player as well?
I feel that he's gotten stronger, so I think anytime you get that power, inherently you should increase your speed. And I had the privilege of working with him when we had the COVID year, and he was essentially a junior player in the American League, and it's a different player now. There's no question in terms of his strength, his ability to get pucks out, win battles, and also get away from players. So what we saw last night was a good example of the work he's put in.
Just one question on Vladislav Namestnikov, where, all the narrative around the trade deadline was upgrade second line center, all that stuff. We know you guys tried on Nelson and all of that. But Vladislav Namestnikov is also playing some of his best hockey at this stage. So I wonder if you could characterize his season, because there were some down points as well, and what you've learned about him as he's stuck that out and then gotten back to the top of his game.
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job on that line in the middle. He does a lot of things. His versatility is quite something. And you're talking about a player that's involved in our power play, our penalty kill, and our second line. So maybe the value isn't stated enough of how important he is to our group. And again, it was nice to see him score last night. He scored right in the blue paint. But for a coach, it's what you see away from the puck as well. And I think that he's a big part of our success so far, and he will be moving forward.
Marty, what have you learned about Haydn Fleury's game over the course of the year, and then also specifically how he handled one time he's a top four guy, and then he went quite a bit of time, and how he handled things when he wasn't in the lineup as regularly after he came back from the injury?
Yeah, no, I hadn't had much experience with Haydn. Obviously, spent a lot of time in the East. Obviously, he was in Seattle for a bit. But what jumps out is his skating ability. And right from training camp, that was something that, was very evident. Obviously, he has a relationship with Dean Chenoweth from previous teams. So I think that helped him as well. The other thing that I, would have to tip my cap to Chevy and the pro scouts is that unbelievable team guy. In terms of how he is in the dressing room, how he prepares, how he deals with not being in the lineup or whatever the case may be. He's fit into what we are as a group, and I think that's been a part of his success. And then he's also put in a lot of work when maybe he hasn't gotten into the lineup, and I think that's a tough thing to do when you're not playing. It's really hard to, to push yourself to the point to make sure that you're ready to play. And we saw last night he was jumping into the rush. His pace was really good, and that's because he put in the work. And we're happy to see him play that way.
Just wondering, seeing what Dallas and Colorado did at the deadline, just wondering what that does to the emphasis on finishing first and letting them slug it out in round one.
Yeah. We have never really talked about that as a group. I think tomorrow and Friday will be about maybe some of the new looks that they have based on the fact, I think it was game 25 that we played them in the regular season. So there's some different players in the lineup. But our structure and how we play is going to provide us stability and success. And that's Friday, and then it'll be, in Seattle the following game. So we're not looking too far ahead. I think that's a dangerous thing to do. The group's been good, and it's similar to the question about how we play, whether we have a lead or not. The bench doesn't change. Arnie certainly doesn't change, and that's been sort of the MO from the start of the season.
Coaches get a little more amped about a game like Friday's coming up?
I think we're excited about it, for sure. We understand that it's a divisional game. Those are important, but yeah, at this point, we just have to make sure we're prepared and ready for puck drop.
Marty, is it important to treat that game Friday like it's a must-win, even though it's not a must-win, but just to feel the pressure that eventually is going to be here, or all teams face an elimination game? You haven't really felt a ton of that pressure as far as people pushing. Is it important to maybe put a little bit of pressure on your guys' selves for this matchup?
Yeah, I think naturally our guys will be ready. Everybody's talking about what has happened since the trade deadline, where we're at. Naturally, it's going to be a big game, but will we put added pressure? No, we won't. We're going to stick to the foundation of who we are and what we are, and up until this point in the season, we feel that that's been a good recipe, and we're going to continue to do that.
As a coach, you have a vision of what you want to see on the ice, and the players' job is to go out and execute. In your time here, I wanted your thoughts on how you think Kevin Cheveldayoff has done in finding the right kind of players to fit in with the system and execute that vision.
Yeah, I think he's done an outstanding job. I know that, I haven't had a lot of experience in the league, but since I've been with the Jets, we're always getting guys that fit into the room. And yes, we have to make sure they fit on the ice too. But how this group has meshed together, and even within a couple days, seeing Brandon and Luke and how they're received. They're out there working with guys before and after practice, within being here for 24 or 48 hours. So we've done a really good job identifying the type of people we need to get, and then obviously the intangibles of what those players bring. It might not always be goals, assists, points, but it's the intangibles that they bring to our group that fits into our system and our structure.
Already know stats, but you mentioned Haydn Fleury, how well he's handled the not playing, and because you're working with those guys, whether it's after practice or after morning games skates, the crew's getting a little bit bigger now. The guys who aren't playing. Do you change at all on the communication and how you're handling those guys, how you're preparing those guys as you go down the stretch and then into the playoffs?
Well, I think Scott does a good job communicating with those players on a daily basis. Everybody is aware of what's going on that day or that night. And then from there, you have to provide some variety for those players to make sure that, it's enjoyable as well. after practice workouts. But no, it's been really good. And I think that's our leadership group, making sure that everybody feels connected and involved. And it's been a pleasure so far to work with the group, and we know that it's going to be even tougher moving forward. But the response that we've gotten from them in terms of work ethic and buy-in has been excellent.
Sorry, any of the absences an injury risk for Friday?
No, just maintenance.